Before Jesus, before the Romans, even before the Greeks, Egypt had a history of pharaohs, priests, and officials whose names still echo through time. We know of Tutankhamun, Cleopatra, and Ramesses the Great, but some figures were so powerful, so manipulative, and so corrupt that history almost erased them entirely. These shadow rulers operated behind the throne, pulling strings and amassing fortunes, while the pharaohs took the credit, and the blame. Today we uncover one of ancient Egypt's most controversial and forgotten figures, a man whose story is a masterclass in political maneuvering and a chilling reminder of how easily power can corrupt. To understand corruption in ancient Egypt, we need to peel back the layers of its society. For millennia, Egypt was one of the most powerful civilizations on earth, ruled by pharaohs who were considered living gods. But behind the divine monarch, a complex web of priests and high officials managed the empire's daily affairs. The real political and economic power often lay in the hands of viziers, treasurers, and temple administrators. Imagine being in charge of the entire nation's food supply, its tax collection, its temple wealth, and its military resources. The temptation would be immense. In an era without modern checks and balances, without investigative journalism or public audits, corruption could fester in the shadows, going almost entirely unnoticed, except for the whispers left behind in the ancient records. One figure who consistently emerges from these whispers is a man who rose from humble beginnings to wield almost unimaginable power. Depending on the dynasty and the specific text you read, scholars point to viziers, like I, who operated in the background of some of Egypt's most famous reigns. While the pharaoh was the face of the kingdom, this man effectively controlled the treasury, influenced who would succeed the throne, and built a personal empire through a mix of religious and political maneuvering. Contemporary accounts, found in inscriptions and later historical records, suggest he enriched himself at the expense of ordinary people. He wasn't just wealthy, he used his fortune to buy influence, manipulate the royal succession, and hoard the vast wealth pouring into the temples. While not all historians agree on the extent of his corruption, the patterns of his power concentration and shrewd political plays are undeniable. In many ways, his story is a timeless, cautionary tale about the dangers of absolute power, showing how one individual could exploit an entire system for personal gain. Centuries before the world we know today even began to take shape. So, how did corruption actually work in a world of papyrus and pyramids? It was surprisingly sophisticated. A high-ranking official could control the grain supply, the lifeblood of Egypt. By creating an artificial scarcity, they could drive up prices and line their own pockets, all while appearing to manage a crisis. They could manipulate temple funds, which were colossal at the time, redirecting donations meant for the gods into their private estates. They could also whisper in the pharaoh's ear, influencing key decisions on everything from who got appointed to high office to where the army was sent next. By controlling both wealth and information, a single cunning official could wield influence that rivaled the pharaoh himself. While the pharaoh's name was carved in stone for eternity, these shadow rulers were the ones accumulating real-world power, enriching themselves while ordinary Egyptians paid the price. The impact of this high-level corruption was devastating for the common person. Tax burdens on farmers, who were already struggling to make a living from the Nile's annual flood, would mysteriously increase. Grain reserves, meant to protect the population during lean years, would be mismanaged or disappear altogether, leaving ordinary citizens to suffer during famines or political turmoil. Even the most sacred institutions became tools for personal enrichment. Temples designed to honor the gods and serve the community were sometimes transformed into private banks for the elite. This toxic combination of wealth hoarding, political manipulation, and social inequality created deep-seated tension. Occasionally, this tension would erupt into revolts, though the records of these uprisings are scarce. After all, the people writing history were the ones serving the very elite who benefited from the system. So if this official was so powerful, why has history almost forgotten him? The answer lies in the nature of power itself. Pharaohs and later rulers had a powerful incentive to erase or downplay the memory of corrupt figures. It was bad for public image and undermined the idea of a divinely ordered society. An inconvenient vizier could have their tomb inscriptions defaced, their records rewritten, or their name completely scrubbed from the official list of punishment known as damnatio memoria, the damnation of memory. What survives for us today is fragmentary scattered inscriptions, puzzling temple accounts, and the occasional salvaged papyrus. But even these fragments are enough to piece together the story of a person who wielded incredible power, often for their own self-interest rather than for the good of the state. The story of this forgotten figure isn't just a dusty piece of history. It's a profound lesson about power, accountability, and the eternal human struggle with greed and ambition. It shows us that even thousands of years ago, societies grappled with the consequences of unchecked influence. The mechanisms may have been different, no offshore accounts, just hidden granaries, but the core problem remains the same. By studying these forgotten figures, we don't just gain insight into ancient Egypt, we see the recurring patterns of power and corruption that have shaped human history from the age of pharaohs to the present day. If you love uncovering forgotten stories and diving into the hidden corners of history, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Join us as we continue to explore hidden figures, secret scandals, and lost civilizations. And let us know in the comments, which forgotten ruler or corrupt figure from history do you want us to uncover next? Thanks for watching.